We've traveled the world and gathered some of the more intriguing and unusual things that people love to call food. From fried tarantulas to jellied moose nose, here are the 10 weirdest foods eaten around the world. Number 10. If you're afraid of creepy crawlies, an enormous, oversized bug that lives at the bottom of the ocean might be enough to give you nightmares. However, despite its unsettling appearance, the giant isopod isn't really up to any evil deeds. In fact, this strange sea creature can be rather helpful. It can grow up to be about 2.5 feet long, which is rather alarming for something that looks so much like an insect. These creatures are not actually insects, but they do resemble them. Giant isopods are bottom feeders that have a taste for the ugliest things found underwater. Despite their strange and, to put it mildly, repulsive eating habits, these creatures are incredibly important to the wider ecosystem of the underwater world. People apparently eat these things in some parts of the world. The giant isopod is thought to be a delicacy in many parts of the world. You won't be surprised to learn that they have an especially unique texture and flavor. The giant isopod, with all of its insect-like appearance, is a crustacean that lives in the deepest of the seas and eats all the carcasses of animals that sink to the bottom of the ocean. Oh, and they can also be somewhat dangerous to eat. Frequently packed with heavy metals and toxins, they can be mistaken for other types of crustaceans, which means you could end up eating the wrong thing. It's all a little risky, to be honest. Are you eager to try this food? The answer is no, so let's move quickly on. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. Number 9. This is the grossest stuff I've ever heard of. Shirako, a Japanese delicacy that translates to white children, is formed from fish sperm sacs and is thought to have some health benefits, though it's unclear exactly what those benefits might be. Anglerfish or cod pufferfish are the species utilized for this incredibly repulsive dish, and these seem to have the best sacs. These globs of white goo, what else could they look like, I wonder? Can also occasionally resemble a miniature brain, which is something you'd have to imagine to be extremely unappetizing. The weirdest part, though, is how people say the stuff tastes. I guess I'll have to rely on other people's opinions because this is one that I'm never going to try. They claim that it tastes genuinely like sweet custard. In that scenario, why wouldn't you just eat the custard then? Number 8. And now for one you've probably heard of before, bellow, or fertilized duck eggs. This means exactly what you might think it means. These are eggs that a baby bird has been incubating for a few weeks. However, instead of hatching into a cute and cuddly little duckling, it will be cooked and eaten straight out of the shell. Life can be cruel at times. This is a common Southeast Asian dish. Anyway, it's kind of like a hard-boiled egg, except that it's actually a hard-boiled duck fetus, and that alone is enough to make most Westerners uncomfortable. However, this one might be a bit much. You can actually see its face. I really can't handle this any longer. Number 7. While many people might not instantly associate eating large, hairy spiders with a classy lunch or dinner under the harsh, totalitarian regime of the Cambodian Rouge, people had to eat whatever was available to them in order to survive. Since necessity is the mother of invention, they apparently learned that fried spiders weren't all that bad. The eating of these hairy arachnids has persisted since the regime's downfall. They're a deep-fried snack that's enjoyed all over the nation. Although they don't look very appetizing, people say that they taste a bit like crab, so it can't be all that bad. What do you think? Would you eat one of these if you had to take a chance? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this, so let's start a discussion in the comment box below regarding the advantages and disadvantages of eating creepy crawly food. Number 6. Ever come upon an anthill? You know, where a large pile of white eggs and hordes of swarming insects are everywhere. What were your initial thoughts upon discovering it? Was it really that bad? Was it lunchtime, perhaps? Who came up with this one? Seriously. This soup, which is cooked from the eggs of the weaver ant and is a typical component of the normal diet of sustenance, indicates that evidently eating ants and their eggs and other things is actually a deliciously fabulous thing to do in Laos and Thailand. Farmers in several Asian regions make soup using ingredients including chicken stock, spring onions, chiles, fish sauce, lemongrass, shallots, and tomatoes, possibly to mask the taste of ants' eggs. In Thailand, people also like to crush up scarab beetles and add them to their own take on the red ant soup egg thing. Wonderfully tasty. The eggs aren't just for soups. These strange tiny balls are also a great garnish for other meals and are reportedly loved for their sour taste. Number 5. How often do you think about consuming some nose? It's not the most popular cut of meat after all, and even though you know that a variety of things end up in the sausage, the nose isn't always the first thing people notice. However, it turns out that people in Canada are kind of fond of a nibble of moose nose. The custom of eating a whole moose stems from a period in the past when native hunters in Canada and Alaska would use the animal's carcass to sustain their family for weeks at a time. This also included any pieces that other people might have thrown away. Every last bit of moose was consumed or preserved, and that included the cheek and neck meat, which kind of disappears like braised beef. So how does one eat a moose snout? Well, the recipes say that the best way to enjoy this particular delicacy is to remove the fur, which can be done by peeling it off after it has been boiled and then simmering it with onions, garlic, and spices. The cooked nose is layered in a pan and covered with a gelatinous broth, which is then allowed to solidify. The resulting dish is then eaten, sliced like bread, and has a particularly varied texture. It can be chewy in the areas that have more cartilage and tender in the areas that have more meat. Number 4. Bosantang is a soup made with spring onions, dandelion, and a variety of spices that has long been thought to have particularly healthful qualities. Oh, and did you know that dog meat is a traditional Korean dish that is still consumed by the elderly? It has long been thought to be very healthful, and despite its unpleasant scent, most people agree that it tastes better than it stinks. However, it's still quite subjective because you have to put dog meat in your mouth. Though it has become less popular recently, eating dogs has long been a part of Korean culture. In a recent poll, the vast majority of respondents said they had never eaten dog meat, which is not surprising given the controversial nature of dog meat in many Western countries and the spread of Western culture. Still, dogs are rarely served here these days. Number 3. Across the globe, a corn cob coated with a blue-black growth is typically thrown in the trash and considered ruined, but not in Mexico, home of this difficult-to-pronounce delicacy. Corn smut is a strange fungus that grows on corn cobs and can produce an ugly tumor-like growth. Sounds very tasty. It turns out that this is also a specialty in Mexico. The word for the dish in Spanish means sleeping excrement. Again, it sounds quite good, doesn't it? Although it sounds like a catastrophe for the crops, people have really discovered that this corn smut junk fungus, which is becoming more and more well known in Mexico and beyond, feeds off the corn before it is fully matured. It turns out that this unsettling looking growth is edible as well, so losing the corn cob is not a huge deal. This is currently regarded as a delicacy with a velvety texture that is similar to mushrooms and an earthy, smoky flavor. It's commonly used in tamales, quesadillas, omelets, and creamy sauces. If you can get over the disgusting image of it growing, it's actually not half as horrible as it seems. It might even be very nice. Number 2. Tasty fermented horse milk, my favorite. Arag is a traditional beverage from Mongolia that is slightly alcoholic but also very nutritious and fermented. Because it must be fermented, it becomes one of those incredibly stylish gut-healthy items that are all the rage right now and have all those health benefits for your digestive system and general well-being. It's a little gross for most Western sensibilities though, as it's made from mare's milk, but it's fermented because when eaten raw, Mongolians only drink fermented milk when it's medically necessary because it can have a laxative impact otherwise. The milk undergoes a lengthy and intensive fermentation process that might take days. The ultimate product is an arag that is fizzy, slightly sour, and slightly sweet. The final flavor varies depending on the region in which it is produced. Number 1. There are so many different surprising foods that are regularly consumed in Japan that it can be difficult to choose just one to highlight. However, there are a few that are genuinely unique to this nation and send people to other countries into a tailspin. One such item is tuna eyeballs. Yes, the eyes of the tuna fish are regularly consumed in Japan and with great enjoyment. They are also known as medama tuna eyes, and people believe that by eating them, you will become more intelligent. If you are interested in trying this, the tuna eyeball is typically prepared by boiling it. Yes, that's an image for your brain, and then serving it seasoned with soy sauce, mirin, or sake. However, if there is a specific concentration of brain-boosting properties in these large fish eyeballs, it seems highly unlikely to be true. That concludes our tour of bizarre cuisine. Have you become hungry throughout our travels? Which of these strange foods have you tried? Share your experiences with me in the comments below. Also be sure to check out our other videos that are appearing on the screen now. As always, thanks for watching.